The crunch of gravel beneath my tires didn't just sound different today, it felt wrong, like the earth itself was screaming at me. Something was off, way off, and my gut twisted as my silver SUV rounded that familiar last bend of Maple Ridge Road. What I saw next stole the breath right out of my lungs. My family's farm, our sacred haven, was gone. Can you believe it? Where golden wheat fields once danced in the breeze, a monstrous concrete beast now loomed, its countless windows glinting like the cold, watchful eyes of a predator. I slammed on the brakes and pulled over, my hands clutching the steering wheel so tight. My knuckles turned ghost white. My farm, the one I'd known my entire life, the one I'd poured my soul into, had vanished. In its place stood a 3-story hotel, all smug with its pristine landscaping, manicured lawns, and a sprawling parking lot that mocked me. Bright yellow construction barriers boxed it in, and workers in hard hats buzzed around like ants, oblivious to the betrayal unfolding before my eyes. My mind was a whirlwind. How could this even happen? I'd only been gone a measly month, chasing a critical consulting gig in Singapore, because my family desperately needed the cash. Sarah and I had gone over every single detail before I left, every lock, every plan, every precaution. Or so I'd thought, naive fool that I was. This farm wasn't just dirt and crops. It had been in my family for 4 generations. Each acre was sacred, tended with love and sweat, a living testament to our legacy. Suddenly, a construction worker spotted me and strutted over, his clipboard tucked under his arm like some badge of authority. "Can I help you?" he asked, all casual-like. I stumbled out of the car, my legs wobbling like jelly. Seriously, who wouldn't buckle under this shock? "This is my family's land," I declared, keeping my voice steady but firm as steel. "I'm Richard Holloway." The guy squirmed, looking like a deer in headlights. "Oh, you're the owner," he mumbled, clearly at a loss for what to do with me. Before I could grill him, my phone buzzed Sarah, with a text that hit like a punch. "Richard, emergency, call me ASAP." But my eyes were glued to that hotel, rising from my farmland like some alien invader. I took a step closer, my boots crunching on what used to be rich, fertile soil, each sound a dagger to my heart. Every step felt like a violation, like I was trespassing on my own history. That hotel wasn't just a building, it was a bold, arrogant statement, a concrete middle finger proclaiming that someone thought they could just snatch what wasn't theirs. Then I saw it, a massive sign near the construction entrance that made my blood boil. Willowbrook Community Development, approved by HOA board. And there, in big, proud letters, was her name, Karen Reynolds, project director. Karen! That woman! My mind raced, connecting the dots faster than lightning. Karen, the HOA president who'd always sneered at our farm like it was a blight on her perfect little world. Could she really be behind this? She'd nagged us forever about our unkempt boundaries, bombarded us with petty letters about grass height and fence regulations. Oh, how she'd coveted our land. But this was insanity beyond anything I'd ever dreamed she'd dare. A stack of papers on a nearby table caught my eye, practically begging me to dig in. Curiosity, anger, really dragged me closer. Construction permits, zoning docs, approval stamps, all laid out like a roadmap to betrayal. Each page whispered a piece of this twisted story, and I was desperate to crack it wide open. One document stopped me cold, a sneaky little note about community improvement zones. Suspicious? You bet! It wasn't outright illegal, maybe, but it reeked of calculated deceit. The worker hovered nearby, twitchy as a cat. "Sir, you can't be here," he said, his voice weak, like he didn't even believe it himself. I turned, flashing a smile that didn't touch the fire in my eyes. "I'll be leaving soon," I shot back. Driving into town, my brain was a storm of questions. How long had they schemed this? What legal tricks had Karen pulled? And the big one, how could I prove this was dead wrong? Sarah's text still sat unanswered, a ticking bomb in my pocket. I needed answers, facts to unravel what had gone down while I was halfway across the world. This wasn't just about land. It was about justice, about clinging to a legacy that defined us. A billboard screamed at me as I drove, "Willow Brook growing together, growing together." What a sick joke, apparently. That meant stealing without so much as a pretty please. I pulled into a local coffee shop, grabbed a notebook, and started scribbling dates, observations, questions, each jagged line a battle cry in this messed up puzzle. That farm wasn't just soil. It was our history, our future, our everything. The waitress swung by with a coffee refill. "Rough day?" she asked, her tone soft. I looked up, a fierce grin breaking through. "Just getting started?" I said, my voice brimming with resolve. Oh, Karen had no clue. I was about to fight back, and I'd fight smarter than she could ever imagine. Back home, the dusty file cabinet in my barn was calling to me. Did it hold the secrets I needed? Sunlight slipped through the wooden slats, catching specks of dust like tiny ghosts as I yanked out a stack of yellow documents. My grandfather had guarded like treasure. My fingers brushed the edges of old property maps, each crease a whisper of our family's bond to this land. Can you feel the weight of that? I spread them across the workbench, diving into decades of paperwork most folks would have trashed ages ago. But me? Something, call it instinct, call it fate, always screamed to keep them. My grandfather was a cautious soul, always ready for the unexpected. Now, those preparations might just be my lifeline, my only shot. The first gem was a hand-drawn map from 1952, intricate pencil lines tracing our farm's exact boundaries, with his scribbled notes peppering the margins like battle plans. I could still hear him, voice gravelly with wisdom, telling me tales of how he fought tooth and nail to hold this land in tough times. "Knowledge is your best weapon," he'd say, his weathered hands jabbing at these very papers. As I pored over them, a chilling pattern emerged. Had the HOA been scheming this long? They hadn't just popped up. They'd been gnawing at property rights for years. Old meeting minutes, letters, legal notices. They painted a vivid, ugly picture of Karen Reynolds and her relentless ambitions. Then, a faded yellow envelope snagged my attention. Jackpot. Inside, letters unfolded a property dispute from way back when. The HOA had pulled this stunt before claiming abandoned or underused land for their so-called community development, but someone had shut them down. These papers showed how, the sweet taste of hope. I whipped out my phone, snapping careful photos of every page. My hand stayed steady, but my mind? It was a tornado. Each sheet was a puzzle piece, a potential dagger in this fight. Sarah would help me sort this later. She's got an eagle eye for connections. I'd miss in the chaos. The barn felt alive now. These weren't just dusty relics. They were evidence, weapons in a war. I didn't start, but would damn well finish. A noise jolted me, the crunch of gravel again. Someone was coming. I scrambled to gather the documents, heart pounding like a drum. Peering through the barn's tiny window, I saw a white SUV with HOA stickers rolling up to the property line. Karen Reynolds herself stepped out, designer sunglasses flashing in the midday sun like she was some queen. She strutted around with that smug confidence, clipboard in hand, taking notes like she was appraising my land. Can you imagine the nerve? I stayed hidden in the shadows, watching her expensive heels sink into the soft earth where my wheat once thrived. Talk about insult to injury. That hotel loomed in the background, a hulking concrete beast, so out of place it hurt to look at. My phone buzzed. Marcus, my lawyer, found something interesting. Call me ASAP. I had to play this smart one slip, and Karen could spin me as the crazy owner she'd love to discredit. Grandfather taught me patience was a weapon, not a flaw, and I clung to that now. My digging the past few days had uncovered more than lines on a map. I'd found a tangled web linking the HOA to developers and city council cronies. Each thread wove a tapestry of greed and power. Disgusting. Karen wrapped up her little inspection and peeled out. leaving dust and doubt swirling in the air. I waited, then stepped outside. The land didn't feel peaceful anymore. It was a battlefield now. No question. My next move had to be sharp, calculated. I needed more ammo to build this case. Those documents in my hand? Just the start. Somewhere in that pile was the key to crushing Karen and her HOA land grab. Where was it hiding? I glared at the hotel in the distance. They thought they'd won, ha! They had no idea the storm I was brewing. Walking into the community center felt like stepping onto a war zone. Did I really have what it takes? My leather briefcase bulged with carefully stacked documents, each page a loaded gun in this fight for my family's land. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting eerie shadows across a room crammed with HOA bigwigs and nosy neighbors. There she was, Karen Reynolds, perched at the head of that long wooden table, like some dictator. Her perfectly pressed blazer and sleek hair screamed control, but I knew better. She thought rules were for bending, not obeying. I'd seen her at past meetings, cornering folks with that fake, sweet voice that barely hid her claws. Oh, how she loved her power plays. I'd like to discuss the recent development on my family's farmland, I began, my voice steady as a rock despite the storm raging inside me. Can you imagine the weight of that moment? The room fell dead silent, whispers snuffed out like candles, replaced by a crackling tension. So thick you could practically grab it. I spread out the first set of documents, old property maps from my grandfather's era, each one a fragile treasure, meticulously preserved and notarized like sacred relics. These weren't just papers. They were battle lines, clear boundary markers, easements, and land use agreements that laughed in the face of the HOA's existence, predating it by decades. My fingers trembled as they traced those faded lines, each one a heartbeat of family history, a shield of legal protection, shouting our right to this land. Karen's eyebrow twitched, just a tiny flicker. But oh, I caught it. That little twitch was a scream. She knew her throne was wobbling. These documents, I pressed on, my voice cutting through the air, prove that the land where that hotel now squats was never legally transferable without my explicit say-so. I yanked out a stack of photographs, snapshots of our farm through the years, bursting with life, continuous maintenance, crop rotations, my family's hands in the dirt. Each image was time-stamped, each one a hammer slamming nails into the HOA's coffin. Bam, bam, bam. A middle-aged woman in the back row leaned forward, Martha Thompson. Bless her fair-minded soul. Her eyes devoured those papers, shifting from curiosity to outright concern. Could she see the truth unfolding? Karen tried to cut in, all high and mighty. Mr. Davis, this is hardly... I'm not finished. I snapped back, my tone firm but cool as ice. Years of legal consulting had drilled one thing into me. A measured response is a weapon. I clocked the board members squirming in their seats. Uncomfortable much? Then came the kicker, a detailed environmental impact assessment I'd commissioned on the sly. Oh, what a bombshell! It laid bare the hotel's dirty secrets, drainage messes that could poison our water, soil disruptions spitting in the face of county guidelines, every flaw backed by rock-solid geological reports. Martha's hand shot up. Could you explain the environmental concerns? She asked, hungry for answers. I dove in, breaking down the jargon into plain talk. My mission wasn't to bamboozle, but to enlighten. The room hung on my every word, really listened. Karen's face, a thunderstorm of emotions, anger flashing, fear creeping, desperation clawing at her mask. She knew I wasn't just poking at her precious hotel. I was ripping open a whole ugly pattern of overreach. You can't just take land, I said, my voice dropping low, heavy with truth. This isn't about some hotel. It's about respecting property rights, family legacy, community trust, everything that matters. A young board member, Justin, I remembered him, leaned in. We have some questions about the documentation, he said, eyes sharp. I grinned. Questions? That meant they were hooked. They felt the gravity of this fight crashing down. For the next hour, I tore the HOA's case apart, methodical, relentless, unstoppable. Each document, each photo, each legal tidbit stacked up like bricks in a fortress. I wasn't just defending my land, I was championing a principle that burned in my bones. The mood shifted as I went. Board members who'd smirked at me earlier now looked worried. Martha scribbled notes like her life depended on it. Justin pored over those environmental reports with laser focus. Karen stayed mute, her cocky edge crumbling minute by minute. Oh, how the mighty fall. When I wrapped up, the room buzzed with electric possibility. I hadn't won yet, but I'd sown doubt seeds that sprout into big, messy questions about the HOA's dirty games. As folks trickled out, Martha sidled up, her voice a hushed thunder. "Those environmental reports are serious," she whispered. "I don't think the board had a clue what was really going on." I nodded, gathering my papers round one down, but the real war was just heating up. Outside, the afternoon sun threw long shadows across the parking lot. My truck sat there, quiet, a beacon of the farm calling me home. But something had shifted deep inside. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about justice, pure and fierce. Karen glared at me from across the lot, her eyes blazing with hate and fear. Did she finally get it? I wasn't backing down, not now, not ever. Next morning, old Mr. Henderson from the farm next door knocked right after breakfast. Talk about timing. His weathered hands shook as he slid an old manila envelope across our kitchen counter. "You'll want to see this," he rasped, his voice heavy with secrets older than the hills. Inside, a gold mine, faded photos and handwritten notes spilling a tale I never saw coming. Karen Reynolds wasn't just after my farm. She'd been snatching land for years. These papers screamed a pattern, sneaky tactics, shady backroom deals, a whole system of grabbing community land under the flimsy excuse of neighborhood improvement. Unbelievable. Sarah's hand landed on my shoulder, steadying me as I reeled. "What are you thinking?" she asked, her voice calm but strong. "My rock." "These documents," I said, spreading them out with care, "they're more than old scraps. They're a freaking roadmap to Karen's whole crooked strategy." Mr. Henderson sank into a chair, his gaze lost in time. "She's been at this for years," he murmured, soft as a ghost. "Nobody ever dared stand up to her until now." The first photo hit me like a punch. An aerial shot of Willowbrook, late 90s maybe, with red lines marking boundaries. But wait, something was off. Those lines didn't match the county records I'd been sweating over. Had she been rigging the game that long? "I remember when she first took over as HOA president," Henderson went on. "Promised a better community, but better for who, huh?" Sarah got to work copying the docs, her hands precise, deliberate, each page a potential dagger in our legal arsenal. Then, out the window, I spotted a young woman familiar from HOA meetings. She paused, threw a nervous glance our way, then bolted. "Creepy much?" "Who was that?" I asked Sarah, but she'd clocked the odd vibe too. Henderson leaned in, voice dropping low. "Folks are whispering," he said. "Not everyone's on Karen's side, but they're scared stiff. She's got a knack for making trouble for anyone who talks." I started piecing it together, each document a thread in a web of calculated deceit, rezoning here, boundary tweaks there, permits popping up like magic. Karen had been playing chess while we were still learning checkers. My farm was just her latest pawn. "We've got to be careful," I told Sarah, heart pounding. "These papers are dynamite, but one misstep, and she'll twist it all against us." The phone rang. "Unknown number." Sarah picked up, cool as ever, but the call was short, cryptic. She hung up, eyes wide. "Someone wants to meet you," she said. "Someone who knows about Karen's old schemes." Henderson's eyes sparkled. "Truth's got a way of sneaking out, don't it?" he chuckled. I slid each document into plastic sleeves. Years of record keeping were about to pay off big time. Karen thought she could grab whatever she wanted. Ha! She had no clue what was coming. Outside, a car crawled by our house. Through the window, I glimpsed that same woman watching, waiting for what? Sarah squeezed my hand, fierce and sure. "We're in this together," she said. Those papers weren't just ink and dust, they were proof. Proof of a land theft machine. Proof. Karen thought she was untouchable. Proof we were ready to fight tooth and nail. Henderson shuffled out, but not before dropping a gem. Sometimes, the quietest folks got the loudest tales. As he left, a single page slipped from his jacket, another puzzle piece begging to be found. Next day, I tackled that pile of papers, old maps and records, weaving a maze I'd turn into a weapon. Marcus Thompson, my lawyer, sat across from me, glasses perched on his nose like a hawk. "These property lines are trickier than I thought," he muttered, tracing an old surveyor's map with a finger. His voice buzzed with excitement, sparking hope in me. I flashed back to Karen at community meetings, smirking down at us, snide jabs about our outdated farming, our inefficient land use. Her crisp suits and polished nails mocked my worn boots and calloused hands. Oh, how she loved her superiority. But today, these hands were about to deliver justice. Watch out. "Karen?" Sarah swept in with coffee, her hand squeezing my shoulder like a lifeline. Did she feel the weight of this as much as I did? She knew this wasn't just about some patch of dirt. It was our history, our legacy, the heartbeat of our family pulsing through every blade of grass. Marcus, all focus and fire, yanked out a stack of old county records. "Look at this," he barked, spreading 3 maps across the table, each one from a different decade, each one a time capsule. There's something weird, seriously weird, about how these property boundaries got recorded over the years. I leaned in, heart thumping, watching him align those maps with surgical precision. Each one told its own tale, but together? Oh, they unveiled a shocker, tiny, sneaky shifts in property lines that most folks would have missed in a million years. "The HOA didn't do their homework, can you believe that?" Marcus whispered, a sly grin sneaking across his face. "They thought this was a slam dunk, but legal land fights? Nothing's ever simple, nothing." We dove in, spending hours sifting through a treasure trove, old tax records, inheritance papers, even yellowed letters. My grandfather swapped with county bigwigs decades ago. Every document was a jagged piece of this crazy puzzle. How did it all fit? Then Marcus's phone pinged, and he checked it like it was a ticking bomb. His eyes lit up. Jackpot. "The local historical society just hit me back," he said, practically vibrating. "They've got juicy stuff on land use around here way back to the 1940s. I couldn't stop picturing Karen strutting around like she owned the world. Her perfect lawn, her pristine HOA newsletter, the way she'd parade through the neighborhood like some queen sizing up her empire. Did she really think she was untouchable? But guess what? Kingdoms fall. And hers was about to crash under the weight of its own smug arrogance. "We've got to play this smart," Marcus warned, his tone sharp. "Spill too much too fast, and they'll bury their tracks quicker than you can blink." I nodded. Oh, I got it. This was a tightrope walk, not just about winning, but about blasting the truth wide open. Sarah swooped back in, hauling a box from the attic. "Found these in my grandma's stuff," she said, plunking it on the table with a thud that echoed my racing pulse. Inside, more gold old surveys, land transfer records, papers most people would have chucked without a second thought. Marcus's eyes popped as he pored over each fragile sheet. "These could change everything. Everything," he muttered, voice trembling with possibility. The afternoon light dimmed, stretching long, eerie shadows across our kitchen, each document a loaded gun, each map a battlefield waiting to erupt. Karen thought she could waltz in, snatch our land, slap up her hotel, and shred our family's legacy. Ha! She had no clue what was barreling her way. A phone rang somewhere. Marcus checked it and grinned like a kid on Christmas. "County Record Office," he announced. They dug up something spicy in the archives. I glanced out the window at the land Karen tried to rip from us, those fields my family had toiled over for generations. Now they hid a secret, illegal wall tougher than any concrete hotel could dream of being. They underestimated us, I said, voice low but fierce. That's gonna be their biggest whoops. Their fatal mistake. Marcus stuffed his briefcase, tucking those documents into a secure folder like they were priceless jewels. This isn't just about land, he said, eyes blazing. It's about justice raw, real justice. As he headed out, dusk draped the farm in a quiet hush. That hotel hulked in the distance, a gaudy shrine to Karen's greed. Oh, but monuments topple. And this one was doomed. Our fight was just kicking off, but for the first time since I'd laid eyes on that monstrosity, a spark flickered in me hope. The phone rang again, unknown number. My gut screamed this call was about to flip everything upside down. Didn't it just feel that way? The attic had always been my memory haven, but today, it crackled with something new, something alive. Sunlight poured through the little round window, catching dust motes that danced like tiny storytellers begging to spill their tales. Sarah's hands, steady, gentle, lifted an old wooden box I'd never seen, its edges worn smooth, brass hinges glinting with a faint tarnish. Found this tucked behind your granddad's filing cabinet, she said, her voice a wild mix of thrill and caution. There's something special here, can't you feel it? I held my breath as she eased the lid open. Inside, layers of pristine documents unfurled a breathtaking mosaic of our family's past. Old deeds, faded photos, stacks of correspondence, decades of it begging to be pieced together. My grandfather wasn't just a farmer, he was a keeper of secrets. The first paper we grabbed was a property map, not some ordinary scribble. Oh no. His tight, precise handwriting spidered across every margin, notes linking our land to something way bigger than a humble farm. Look at this, look, I whispered, tracing a jagged red line that snaked along the edge. It tied our plot to neighboring ones in a web that screamed legal genius. Tiny symbols, codes, maybe? Dotted the map like hidden clues. Sarah leaned in, eyes wide. These look like surveyor marks, but different, way more deliberate. As we dug deeper, a pattern roared to life. Had he seen this coming? Every government chat, every survey, every deal, he'd tracked it all like he was prepping for a war that hadn't even sparked yet. One paper stopped me cold, a yellowed letter from 1973 to the county land registry. My grandfather's name bold at the top. But the words? Nothing I'd expected. Wild stuff about an old land trust. Some legal trick so tangled most lawyers today would choke on it. This isn't just a deed, I muttered, voice shaking. It's a shield, a fortress. Sarah pulled out a hand-drawn family tree names I'd never heard, stretching way beyond our little clan, tied to dates and places in a sprawling ownership web. Then, at the box's bottom, a sealed envelope, no address, just our family's initials stamped in deep red wax. My hands quivered as I cracked it open, careful not to tear the brittle page. Inside, his unmistakable script flowed, each word a calculated strike. He wrote of a safeguard, a trust, generations old, set to snap into action under specific triggers that matched our HOA mess to a T. He knew. I breathed, soft as a prayer. How did he know this might happen? That letter wasn't just protection, it teased a bigger saga. Land rights, community battles, a feud older than the HOA itself. Every line dangled just enough to hook me, leaving mysteries begging to be chased. Sarah caught my face shifting. What's going through your head? I sucked in a breath, big one. These aren't just about saving our land, they're about exposing something massive. Photos slipped out, old aerial shots, decades apart, showing sneaky boundary creeps. You'd miss without a hawk's eye. My grandfather had been tracking something, leaving a breadcrumb trail that could blow the HOA scheme sky high. One pic showed Karen's family land, way back, boundaries off, not illegal maybe, but shady as hell. Marcus has to see these, I said, gathering them up like fragile dynamite. But Karen can't know, not yet. Right then, my phone buzzed unknown number, texting, "Some secrets are better left buried." Oh, the game just flipped. That box whispered resistance legal traps laid decades ago, itching to spring. My grandfather wasn't just a farmer, he was a mastermind, plotting for a fight like this before I was even born. Sarah gripped my hand tight. "What's our next step?" I stared at those papers, a steely calm washing over me. "We gear up, we prepare." Next day, Sarah's eyes tracked me, worry and grit all tangled up. The Willowbrook Herald had been dropping hints about a blockbuster story, and I knew. Today was the day it all shift. I'd spent weeks playing detective, hoarding evidence like a bloodhound on a scent, old maps, dusty records, communication logs, my weapons. Each one sang of how Karen's HOA had schemed to swipe our land right out from under us. The phone rang. Jack Miller from the Herald. "We're set to run it," he crackled, excitement popping. "But watch out, Karen won't take this lying down." I knew the risks. Oh, did I ever. Small towns like ours, they're a tangled mess of connections. Everyone knows everyone. History runs deep. And Karen? She'd been the queen bee for years, stomping through community meetings like a bulldozer, shoving local business owners around, always getting her way until now. Could this really be the moment her reign cracked? Sarah brewed coffee, her hands steady as a surgeon's, but her eyes, they locked onto me, searching, piercing. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice soft but brimming with support, no doubt in sight. She knew this land wasn't just soil. It was our family's soul, our legacy etched into every furrow. The phone rang minutes after the newspaper hit the stands, bam, and Karen's voice sliced through like a razor. "You think you can embarrass me?" she hissed, venom dripping. "I've ruled this community for decades. But me? Cool as ice." I fired back. "I'm not here to shame anyone, I'm protecting what's ours. Plain and simple." Suddenly, the local coffee shops turned into war zones of chatter. Can you imagine the buzz? Folks who'd cowered in silence for years finally spilled their guts. Mr. Rodriguez, that sweet guy from the convenience store, cornered me at the gas station, voice low and shaky. "She tried pulling the same stunt on my place 10 years back," he whispered. "I didn't have the guts to fight, wish I had." By afternoon, the local TV station jumped in, bam, with young Emily Rodriguez standing right outside our farm, mic in hand, bold as brass. "A local family's taking on the Willowbrook Estates Homeowners Association," she declared to the camera, claiming illegal land grabs and power abuse. Was this really happening? Karen's counterattack? Predictable as the sunrise? She summoned an emergency HOA meeting, dragging the media along. Oh, I knew her game. She wanted to spin the story, slap troublemaker on my forehead, but this time I was armed and ready. Marcus, my lawyer, rolled up with a folder so thick it could have doubled as a brick. "They'll try to smear you," he warned, eyes sharp. "Brace for anything." The community center was a madhouse packed to the rafters. Folks who'd always bobbed their heads to Karen's tune now eyed her sideways. Could she feel the tide turning? "This is just a frivolous attack," she bellowed, her voice bouncing off the walls. "This family's out to wreck our progress." But for every jab she threw, I had a shield property surveys from 1946 tax records, maintenance logs each. One, a brick wall against her lies. Sarah's hand gripped mine tight, fierce, a silent battle cry. Our teenage daughter Emma was live streaming chunks of the meeting on social media, genius, right? The whole community was glued, soaking up the truth as it poured out. During a break, a local real estate agent sidled up, voice hushed. "I've dealt with the HOA for years," he murmured. "Always felt something was fishy, but never had the proof until now." By nightfall, the story exploded beyond Willowbrook, regional news outlets ringing, property rights groups perking up. What started as our little fight was ballooning into something massive, unstoppable. Karen tried one last scare. A legal notice landed, all bluster and threats of a countersuit, but it was flimsy, hollow. We both knew It was a desperate gasp. As the sunset bathed our farm in gold, it hit me this wasn't just about land anymore. This was about smashing bullies, guarding our family's legacy, proving one stubborn soul with truth and grit could shake the world. The phone rang again, an investigative reporter from a statewide network. "We want a full feature," she said, voice crackling with excitement. "Will you share your story?" I glanced at Sarah. She nodded, a tiny, fierce smile breaking through. "Yes," I said, heart pounding. "We're ready." Little did we know, this was just the spark of a fight that'd flip our community upside down for the better. My fingers danced over the faded lines of the property map sprawled across Marcus's conference table. Can you feel the power in that yellowed paper? Each crease, each scribbled note hummed with secrets, land rights older than half the buildings in our county. "Look here," Marcus hissed, voice barely a whisper, his pointer darting to a spot I'd glossed over a dozen times. A tiny mark no bigger than a pencil dot snagged my eye. It wasn't just a smudge, it was a lifeline. "Wetlands," he breathed, and that one word flipped everything. That Hotel Karen's bold, brash monstrosity sat smack on a protected ecological zone. No permit on Earth could save her now. Environmental rules are ironclad, merciless walls she couldn't climb. I flashed back to those endless weekends roaming the land with my grandfather. Oh, the memories. He'd point out every subtle shift in the soil, every whisper of the ecosystem most folks ignored. "Land tells stories," he'd say, eyes twinkling. "You just gotta listen close." Now, those stories were about to roar in a courtroom loud and clear. Marcus hauled out a stack of ammo satellite pics, geological surveys, water table reports each page. A cannonball in our arsenal. The HOA thought they could flatten a family farm like it was nothing big mistake. "They'll fight this," Marcus warned, locking eyes with me, his gaze a mix of steel and heart. "He wasn't just my lawyer, he was in this fight, soul and all," Sarah called mid-meeting, her voice a wild blend of thrill and caution. "The local environmental groups reaching out," she said. "They've been sniffing out wetland violations around here." Another ally popping up unexpected. Amazing. Karen's old tricks flooded my mind, those aggressive meetings, twisted paperwork, bullying moves that always worked until they didn't. She treated rules like her personal playthings, convinced her HOA crown, gave her free reign. But power's got a ceiling, and hers was about to cave in hard. Those environmental regs, crystal clear. Wetlands weren't just map lines, they were alive, breathing, guarded by state and federal laws that didn't give a damn about HOA queens or their fancy hotel dreams. Marcus laid out the violations, each word a hammer strike. Fines that could hit hundreds of thousands, restoration costs. They couldn't dodge even criminal charges for knowingly breaking the law. Boom. I whipped out my phone, showing him pics I'd snapped over the years, subtle landscape shifts, water patterns, plant life proving a fragile balance. "This case is bulletproof," I said, quiet but fierce. "They didn't just build a hotel, they trashed an ecosystem." A courier burst in mid-meeting. "More docs, straight from the county's geological survey team." Each page was armor plating for our defense, solid gold. Marcus dialed an environmental law guru, confirmation after confirmation piling up. That hotel wasn't just illegal, it was an eco-disaster begging to be exposed. My phone buzzed a text from some mystery number. "Check your email, you'll want to see this." Cryptic, intriguing as hell. The email held aerial shots, pinpointing the wetlands' full scope. Someone inside was rooting for us. Anonymous tips aren't just movie magic, sometimes they're real. Clutch lifelines. Sarah swept in like a hero, juggling coffee and a fat stack of community petition signatures. Can you believe it? Neighbors who'd been mute as mice were finally roaring. The HOA's iron grip was slipping, crumbling one bold signature at a time. They thought nobody was paying attention, Marcus declared, slamming documents across the table with a grin. But everyone was watching, they just needed someone to link it all up. My mind raced to my grandfather. Oh, that wise old soul. and the generations who cherished this land. They didn't see it as a prize to snatch. They knew ownership meant listening, balancing human dreams with nature's fragile heartbeat. Karen? She saw dollar signs where we saw duty. How blind could she be? The puzzle pieces clicked together, not with some Hollywood bang, but with a quiet, relentless precision that felt unstoppable. Each document, each photo, each crisp scientific report ripped another chunk from the HOA's smug fortress. Take that, arrogance. We weren't just slugging it out in a legal brawl. We were weaving a tale, a saga of community, respect, and the truth that some things tower over concrete and cash. The turning point? It wasn't creeping closer. It had slammed down right in front of us. My hands shook as I stepped into that courtroom. Can you feel the stakes? Months of grinding prep had funneled into this, a David and Goliath showdown to save my family's farm. The wooden benches groaned under the weight of tension, packed with farmers, neighbors, and gawkers itching for drama. Karen sat 2 rows up, her crisp blazer a flimsy shield against the avalanche of proof piling up. She'd always acted like rules were for peasants, not her royal self. I caught her fiddling with those designer glasses, a twitch she couldn't mask. Marcus leaned in, breath hot on my ear. "Stay cool. We've got this," he whispered, his confidence a lifeline I clung to. Years of our family's blood, sweat, and dreams teetered on this razor's edge, generations squeezed into one heartbeat. The judge strode in, Judge Elizabeth Hartman, all stern eyes and no-nonsense vibes. She'd waded through land spats galore, but this, something in her gaze screamed different as she sized up Marcus's towering stack of evidence. The court will now hear closing arguments in Johnson versus Willowbrook Estates Homeowners Association. The bailiff boomed, his voice ricocheting through the hushed room. Marcus rose, navy suit sharp as a blade. "Your Honor, this isn't some petty squabble," he thundered. "It's a blatant power grab, a calculated plot to rob a family's legacy through bureaucratic trickery. He unleashed the proof property maps from my grandfather's day, preservation papers, clauses from the original community covenant. The HOA had swept under the rug. Each piece snapped into place, exposing a sprawling web of corruption. Boom. Karen's lawyer tried to butt in, but Judge Hartman shut him down with a glare that could freeze fire. I spotted Karen's fingers tapping her portfolio. Nervous much? For once, her rock-solid front was cracking. "Miss Reynolds!" The judge barked straight at her. "Care to explain why your crew built that hotel without a full environmental study?" Karen's answer came fast, polished to a sheen. "We followed standard procedures. The property was technically—" "Hold it," Marcus cut in. "Your Honor, we've got proof that blows that lie apart." He slapped down emails, secret chats between Karen and local bigwigs, dripping with backdoor schemes. Each one sketched a portrait of sneaky rule dodging. I flashed back to that night with Sarah, hours hunched over those docs, cross-checking till our eyes burned, frustration and hope duking it out. Our whole life had morphed into this fight. Then an environmentalist took the stand. Her report was a sledgehammer. Rare plants trashed, water tables at risk. Every fact drove another spike into the HOA's coffin. Karen's cool was melting, sweat beaded on her brow, her perfect mask slipping. Folks who'd once quaked at her shadow now stared with curiosity and respect for our grit. Then bam, the knockout punch. An HOA board member, all jittery, shuffled to the stand. "I couldn't stay quiet anymore," he croaked, voice quaking. What she did? It wasn't right. He spilled Karen had gone rogue. No full board okay. Was this real? Marcus's plan shone through. This wasn't just about winning. It was about unmasking a whole system of overreach. Hours ticked by, witnesses spoke. Papers flew. The courtroom turned into a stage of raw truth. Every shred of evidence peeled back to seat like old paint. Karen? Her swagger faded, once a bulldozer, now a shaky mess facing her toughest wall. Judge Hartman didn't rush. She pored over docs. fired sharp questions soaked in every word, her face a blank slate, maddeningly unreadable. The endgame loomed. The room held its breath, waiting. One last document sat ready. Marcus strode to the bench, steps slow, deliberate. "Your Honor," he intoned, "this final piece lays bare the HOA's full misconduct." Karen's lawyer leapt up, objecting, but we all knew this was it, the truth's big moment. My hands shook as I roamed the farm, not from fear, oh no, but from victory's heavy rush. Each step was a chat with my grandfather, his genius planting a shield across decades. Sarah joined me, her eyes sweeping the land, slowly healing, alive again. Those torn-up wheat fields sprouted green hope where that illegal hotel once loomed, now just scars in the dirt, a badge of our war. Marcus hadn't just won a case, he'd torched a corrupt network. Local officials who thought family farms were pushovers, exposed. Karen's empire was collapsing. 3 city council cronies had already bailed, investigations blazing like wildfire. They never saw a farmer fighting back. I muttered, scooping up soil rich, real, a symbol of our defiance. Our community? Transformed. Neighbors who'd cowered now stood proud, swapping tales of their own HOA woes. Local news churned out story after story, our battle lighting fires for others to challenge land grabs. But this wasn't just a win, it was about safeguarding a legacy. My grandfather's records, scribbled in those weathered leather journals, were our ace, each boundary, each note a superpower no fancy legal doc could touch. Karen wasn't done, though her courtroom glare screamed she'd be back. She appealed, dropping hints of shadowy ties that might crack our case open again. But us? Locked and loaded, every trick she'd pull had a counterpunch waiting. The farm wasn't just land now, it was a megaphone. A shout that small folks could topple giants, that paper trails and neighborly backbone could smash corruption flat. Sunset splashed the sky, gold. Sarah's hand squeezed mine. "We did it," she whispered, voice trembling with pride. But we both knew the real grind was just kicking off. A hawk soared overhead, circling our land, a quiet sentinel over our hard-fought prize.